the Soulish Podcast. My name is Whitney Apke, and I'm your host. On the Soulish Podcast, we're talking all about the ish of our souls. The ish being negative thought patterns, blockages, and challenges. But we'll also discuss the aha moments, how to deeply connect with ourselves and others, and the breakthroughs, big or small, that we experience in our body, soul, and spirit. We'll dive deep and talk about everything in between, of course. And I'm so excited to share my experiences and thoughts, as well as bring on guests who are thought leaders and truth seekers. It's my desire to uplift, encourage, and inspire you in each podcast. To another episode of the Soulish Podcast. It is the week of Thanksgiving, and so I wanted to say thank you to everyone who is listening each week to the new episode, and for those of you who jump in and out based off of an episode that interests you. I'm just so grateful for all of my listeners, and it has just been a really fun experience to start this podcast in the middle of the pandemic and the shutdowns and sheltering in place. And it has been a real time of exploring all the different topics and meeting different people from all over the world and talking about things that are in relation to our soul, our mind, emotions, and will, our spirit and body and soul connection. And I just am so looking forward to continuing on this conversation. And so I wanted to start this episode out by thanking you because I am so grateful. This week's episode is about the victim mentality. And this is something that I have struggled with, like the fear of rejection, which was the previous episode to this episode. I have struggled with the victim mentality my whole life. I think that it began, if I reflect back, when I became a pastor's kid, because from that experience of having kids not want to be friends with me or not want to hang out with me because I was the pastor's daughter, they thought that I would tell on them, or my dad knows God and God would know everything like he doesn't know everything already. But you know how kids are. It's like, oh, you're the pastor's daughter. Well, then we don't really want to hang around you because we can't be how we want to be. And so I kind of, from that point on, I even began fibbing and exaggerating stories in order to become more interesting to listen to and to get the attention of those kids. And because I felt so alienated, ostracized, and pushed out, I did anything and everything I could to appease them and to gain friendships. But I found myself really from elementary all the way up into junior high, and then high school became a little bit better, but really elementary all the way to middle school were really difficult years socially for me. High school, freshman year was pretty awful. It was pretty difficult, but it got better. And I became aware of who I wanted to be and who I believed I was. And I started beginning to develop some self-worth. But holy moly, in elementary school, that's really where I became a people pleaser. Someone who absolutely needed the affirmation, the recognition, the applause of other people in order to feel worthy or liked or welcomed and embraced and included. And that really started that whole victim mentality because it was affirmed by people's actions and reactions. And so I became very aware that I was alone and felt alone, and also felt very singled out at the same time. So you feel completely ignored, yet you feel like people are doing it on purpose. So therefore, you're not ignored, you're recognized, but you're on purpose being ignored. So it's this really weird combo of feeling alone, yet you're the only one, yet people are all doing this to you on purpose. Everything is on purpose. And what the victim mentality does is it actually, if you act and react based off of your belief that you are a victim to anything and everything that happens to you, whether it's just life and you're a victim to life, or you're a victim to people, you're a victim to people's decisions, you're a victim of the political world, society, culture, your relationship, your family, you begin to color your world in this victim mentality, it actually perpetuates exactly what you hate, what you resent, what you're afraid of. Your worst fear comes true because it does link into your fear of rejection. And most everyone with a victim mentality also struggles very severely with a fear of rejection. And the two kind of go hand in hand, are like Tweedledee and Tweedledum in your head and in your heart, in your emotions, and they just ravage you. And you end up being a person that is not likable. You end up being very difficult to communicate with and to function with, because everything is a reflection on you and a reflection of how unworthy and unvalued you are. And there's a lot of expectation placed on every interaction, every family gathering, friendship gathering, and people end up being on edge around you, which you then see as people rejecting you or not liking you, which then perpetuates the whole cycle of fear of rejection and the victim mentality. And everything is against them in the world and people. I had a college roommate my first semester who punched me because I told my mom on the phone that I loved her. And she's like, "Do you love me?" And it was 3 weeks into being in college and living together. And I just looked at her and was like, no, no, I don't love you. Like, I love my mother. I've known my mother my whole life. I don't love you. I like you. I'm getting to know you, but I don't love you. I mean, I love in the general sense, right? But I knew what she was asking, and she had been kind of starting to play these games with me anyway. And she had a real hard time with the victim mentality. And it was a great mirror for me, because that was maybe the first time that I had ever met anyone who struggled with the victim mentality like I did. Now, granted, I actually never hit anybody. I mean, I would wrestle and be rough with my brother, but I would never hit somebody else. You know, it was such a great mirror because it really helped me to see the struggle on the outside and what it felt like to be on the other side of that victim mentality and fear of rejection and being ruled by it, being dictated by it. Every look, every gesture, every reaction, being seated in that victim mentality and coming from that place of knowing and believing and reference guide really to how you view the world and how you view others. And it helped me break out of that victim mentality, rooming with somebody who completely struggled with the same issues and same fears and same anxieties and same beliefs. And she actually also was a pastor's kid, which was funny enough. And so it really was a full circle learning experience that first semester in college. Hey, it's me, Whit. Did you know that I'm a certified life coach? I have been coaching and mentoring people for over a decade now, and I specialize with issues of the soul and focus on inner freedom and manifestation. I can help you realign with your values and purpose, break free from emotional blockages and negative thought patterns. You will feel motivated and encouraged to take the necessary steps to live a fulfilling life. We all need support and someone to cheer us on or hear us out, and it would be a privilege to be a part of your journey. My sessions are designed so that you are free to address whatever you feel is most important. If you are interested, simply go to whitneyapke.com/coaching and sign up for a free 30-minute call. I can't wait to work with you. And it taught me a few things. To realize that I'm not alone. I think I had really realized when rooming with that college roommate that I had been believing that I was alone And I was the only one who was being singled out by people and victimized and hurt or mistreated or ignored or made fun of. And I thought I was the only one. I thought I was alone. And this ended up glorifying the things that had gone wrong in my life. And I realized that this was a huge lie that I had believed, because I'm not alone. And it's a part of life. Everybody gets rejected at some point. Everybody gets mistreated at some point. Everybody gets made fun of. Everybody gets ignored. It's just a part of life. It's part of interacting with other people. Not everyone is going to be your best friend. Not everybody is going to want to hang out with you. And that doesn't mean that you are less than. It just means that it's a preference. And so the glorification of the things that have gone wrong for you is one of the ways that we shield ourselves from the world, and how we make ourselves live and exist on this pedestal high and above everybody else, and everybody else is doing us wrong. And it justifies our behavior, our reactions, and we end up separating ourselves from the very people that we want to be embraced by. And so I realized that I am not alone, and that I cannot continue to allow that mentality, that belief, to go on any further in my heart, in my mind, and in my emotions. And I immediately started to shift that and stopped glorifying things that had gone wrong, and instead saw it as a part of life and an opportunity to bounce back from, or move through, or hop on over. And I just saw it as, you know what, this is just a learning experience. It's another learning experience like so many other things in my life. And I can't make this something bigger than what it is. It's just simply a part of life. And it's people being people, or things not being all about me and maybe about somebody else. And that's okay. And that's another thing, is to not make everything about you. When you have the victim mentality, everything relates back to you. You can't have a conversation with somebody and it be about them. You have to relate everything about them back to you in the conversation, which then leaves somebody feeling like you don't really care about them. You care more about yourself and talking about yourself, and you're thinking about yourself and not them. And so I actually realized that I was doing this. And here I'm thinking that, oh, I'm being a part of the conversation. I'm relating with them. And it was also my deep, deep, deep need to be understood, to be heard, to be seen, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have this victim mentality and it's ruling your life, you actually miss out on the real opportunities to be seen, valued, heard, and understood. Instead, you continue to try to fabricate those moments and those experiences. And then when someone lets you down, they've hurt you, they've failed you, ignored you, they've done something to hurt you. And then that person is left not understanding what they did wrong. Here they had a conversation with you where they shared something with you, and then you talked about yourself the whole time, and then somehow you're offended because they didn't say something that they should have, right? Anybody recognize that trend? I do. And really it ends up with you losing friendships. And if you're lucky enough to keep those friends that are willing to weather that storm with you, or they just moderate what they share and they understand that anytime they're in the room with you or in a conversation with you, that it's going to be all about you, it's still not as deep of a connected relationship, friendship as what you desire. And you, again, still end up missing out on the real thing. So don't make everything about you. That's the other part of this victim mentality that really ends up damaging friendships and relationships. And it actually is a block to you being seen, being understood, and being valued by others. It's a different thing when you're sharing something of value with somebody and letting someone know that you relate with something that they've just shared with you and saying, I had the same experience and it went down like this, that, So I completely understand where you're coming from. How are you doing now? Do you feel like you're getting over it? Do you feel like you're healed? Do you still have unforgiveness, resentment, right? You're now bringing it back to them. You're saying, I understand and I relate to that because I've had a similar experience and it went like this for me. But where are you now? You're engaging with them back again. You've shared a little bit so that now you guys have a common experience. That person now feels like they're understood and heard. And now they understand something more about you that maybe they didn't know, that you also had that same experience or a shared or similar experience. And then you're still re-engaging with them after you've shared, and you're again engaging with them and asking them questions about how now they're doing and how they're healing, or if they still have unforgiveness, or if they're moving through it, or what decisions are they making to continue on in life. Maybe it's a huge devastation and loss, and you're seeing how you can be supportive, how you can be there for them, how you can support them. It's not about you. But the problem with the victim mentality is you can't do that because you have such a deep, deep need and desire that you just go on and on and on about your experience and how it made you feel and how you still struggle with it and you still can't get over it and it still haunts you to this day. And then it leads you into another experience that you had again too that was similar, or something that you're still mad about. And there you are off on a bunny trail rabbit. And then you're looking at them like, oh, how did we get there in this conversation? Or you're just losing them and they're looking away, or they're nice people and they're engaged with you, but you've now lost your opportunity to connect with them and support them in your friendship with them or relationship with them. And it's about you. And the truth is that person is going to go and reconnect with somebody else who is going to do what they need as well and is going to give them that exchange and not just go on some monologue about all the woes and woo-hoos of their life, all the wrongdoings and everything that's gone wrong in their life, right? So it's a really tricky balance between sharing something of value or a similar shared experience and going into that place where you might just go on a rant. So my advice is just to watch that, be aware of that, and make sure that you're reconnecting with people because it'll actually heal you. It'll be part of your healing because you're going to deeply connect and relate and share support for somebody, which then earns you support in like kind from that person. That person is going to want to support you now when something goes wrong, or if you want to share something with them and ask for their advice or support as a friend or as in a relationship. And so it can really help you if you keep your eyes and ears open to yourself, to your mouth and what it does, and also your mindset going into a conversation of making it all about you. It's really important to make sure that you make it about them as well as you're in the conversation. The other thing too is I realized that when I was through college and then when I even came back home, I realized that there was a lot of forgiveness and letting go that I needed to do, because here I was again home and faced with all the familiar things. Even though my environment was a bit different, my world and my social world was changing again. And so there were familiar and unfamiliar things. And I just realized how much I needed to forgive and let go, and to not hold or keep a record of wrongs, but instead use wisdom and let trust be earned from people. And I learned some really hard lessons after coming home from college in my early to mid 20s to late 20s. I learned that lesson of forgiving and letting go, and especially not keeping a record of wrongs, but using the wisdom from those experiences and learning to have people earn trust. I realized that I was keeping a record of wrongs and then using that record of wrongs on people that were doing similar things. And these people may not have been committing all kinds of wrongdoings, but they had similar traits to that person, similar ways of talking or ways of looking, or gestures were similar. And that may or may not be right. I mean, some people, if they are sneering and they're kind of bitchy and whatever, right? I mean, you can tell if someone's being bitchy or if they're just being funny, or maybe if that's just the way that they look. But I was using from previous experiences those same attributes and attributing them to new people and then mistrusting everybody. And mistrusting led me to, again, being isolated and not connecting because I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid of being hurt. I was afraid of what people were saying about me behind my back, and therefore didn't want to connect with them because I didn't want to give them any ammo. I didn't want to give them anything to tell anybody, even if it was just my favorite sweater. I didn't want them knowing what my favorite sweater was. I didn't want to be a reason why somebody had something to say. And so I would look out for those people and those experiences that felt familiar, and I would isolate myself. And I really missed out on a lot of good friendships because of that. So it's really important to forgive and let go and to not hold on to past bad experiences or keep a record of wrongs, and instead forgive, let go, use wisdom, and let trust be earned with people. And life will go a whole lot smoother, a whole lot better, and that will help you break out of that victim mentality so that you are not perpetuating the same exact life and experiences that you are afraid of or that have hurt you in the past. And you're able to deeply connect with others and to relate and to not miss out on those connections, which are so important, whether with family, friends, or loved ones, or partners, coworkers, it doesn't matter. It's so important for us to be able to connect with all of those people groups in our life. It's very important for us to have those connections and to relate. To feel seen and valued is something so important. But our need for that in order to validate who we are is what trips us up and creates this mentality around the things that have hurt us or the moments or the people that have wronged us or made fun of us or abandoned us in our life. So there's a difference between that need, which is very natural and totally okay, and us not knowing who we are and our value and what we have to offer. When we don't know who we are, we allow everyone and everything to define us. And that's where we feel lost and confused and a victim. And that's no life to live. So to wrap this up and to surmise, the way that I've healed and broken out of the victim mentality is realizing that I'm not alone and stopping the cycle of glorifying the things that have gone wrong in my life and understanding that it's a part of life. The second thing is I had to realize, had to be very aware in every conversation that I need to not make it about me. And I can share a little something if appropriate and if applicable and if helpful in the conversation, in connecting, but otherwise to make the conversation about them unless asked. This helped me to really honestly, truly, deeply connect with people instead of ranting and raving about all the things that had gone wrong in my life and all the ways that I had been hurt and wronged by others. The third thing is to forgive and let go and to not hold on or keep a record of wrongs, but instead use wisdom and let trust be earned. And this was huge in order to break out and have a beautiful life and beautiful connections and relationships in my life. And that's been the major part of it. I hope that this was helpful to you. I would love to hear how this episode was helpful to you. And I would love to hear what you've tried and what you've realized. So definitely leave me a comment and let me know how you're doing with this, as I would love to know and connect with you on breaking free from the victim mentality. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Soulish is not only a podcast, but a community where we can relate to each other and support each other in our soul journeys. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at I Am Soulish.